all the time. And it's true. You set a date and you say, this is going to happen. And then by golly, you're on the path. It's got to happen. And it's up to you. So right now, um, regular listeners, I entered into this lottery at Fringe festivals are all by lottery, pretty much. So I entered into the New York City Frigid Fringe, got picked, was thinking about it the last, since I got picked. And now they came out with the dates last week, and now it's going to happen. I'm going to begin every show talking about it just briefly because it's going to happen. February 16th is the opening for my show at 8:10 p.m. Eastern Time at Under St. Mark's Theater in New York City. I don't have the exact address, but that's where the new iteration of my Amok monologues, Emil Amok, this one's called Lost NPR Host Found Under St. Mark's, because there I am. I'll be at St. Mark's. And I'm kind of lost, although I know where I am now. I'm in my closet. But I'll be out of the closet. It's sort of like a celebration of after 2.5 years, almost 3 years of the pandemic, because it's still going on, right? I mean, but everyone feels comfortable to go out now suddenly. And not with a mask. And yet at the same time, it's sort of like it's like a wave, right? People are, like don't care and then they care, and they don't care and then they care. And then we'll see the statistics bear that out. More deaths, more hospitalization. But now it's like everything else, right? It's not just COVID. It's RSV. It's the flu. This is the first time I've gotten my flu shot in a long. I mean, I sort of I'm vaccinated everywhere else or every way else, but the flu vaccine I haven't gotten for a few years because I bought into the idea. Well, it's like last year's flu. Well, now it's like I just got it. I mean, I just went ahead and got it. So now I'm all vaxxed. I'm all boosted. Although my booster is kind of deboosting. I think I got boosted in, like around the end of September, early October. So let's just cross our fingers and hope that I'll be boosted enough on February. February 16th is the opening night for me, my show, 8:10 p.m. at the New York City Frigid Fringe under St. Mark's. Emil Amok, lost NPR host found under St. Mark's. And then it's February 16th. It's February 18th at 5:20 p.m. It's Thursday, February 23rd, Sunday the 26th, Monday the 27th, and Friday, March 3rd. So I got 6 performances of this show. And if you can't make it, if you're not in New York or not near New York, it's going to be live streamed. So it'll be sort of, well, I don't know how good it's going. I'm sure they have a pretty decent setup there, but you can live stream it from wherever you are. So check out New York City Frigid Fringe, the Frigid Fringe. Yeah, it's going to be cold. I'm getting used to that. I'm trying to get used to the idea. I mean, here in California, it dips down into freezing every now and then. Last couple of weeks, once or twice. It's mostly in the 40s, and I'm cold. I'm cold in the 40s. I have to imagine 20 degrees colder. And let me see how that goes. Anyway, February 16th. And so stay tuned. I'll give you details, and I'll let you know exactly how the show is doing in my head, because I'll be doing it from the inside out in New York City starting February 16th. And then, of course, one thing at a time. I'm doing something there in February, and then another thing at another theater in March. So I'll just keep you posted. But it's exciting around Christmas time that this is happening. And like I said, I'll update you here on this show. And Welcome to the show. Let's get the sounder up. This is it. It's Emil, Amok's Takeout. My takes on all things considerable. Here Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, because I can, because that's the way the media is. It's not, you don't have to have a big, what they call it, you don't have to have a big stick, a big transmitter, 100,000 watts, 5,000 watts, even lower, 250. You don't need that. You just need put up an internet connection, just say, here I am, something happened today, and here's how I feel about it. Of course, you got to have some kind of standing. Yeah, I'm an American. I'm a citizen. I'm an Asian American. I'm a Asian American Filipino. I veteran news guy. I've won some awards. I'm a talk show host. Big stations, small stations. And this is a big news day. This is a big news day. We're going to get to the big news. Today, the January 6th committee referred Donald Trump to the Justice Department for prosecution. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. It's never happened in the history of our country. Never has a former president been referred to the Justice Department for criminal prosecution. Just let that sink in. Let that sink in. It was the last act of the January 6th committee before it goes bye-bye, before the new Congress comes in. And we knew it was going to happen. We were prepared for it. And it's kind of stunning, because we've seen, I've seen all the hearings. I hope you have. But in case you haven't, well, you can always see it on C-SPAN. You can see today's hearing, which played out like a highlight reel of all the things. You had Bill Barr saying how it's stupid, not the hearings, but how Trump was, it was BS, what he was thinking. You got Giuliani talking. You have Ruby Freeman, the African-American poll worker, talking about how, she was victimized in this process. You have, the highlight reel is, we'll tell you the story, and it should be like a test of American stupidity. See that highlight reel that they played during at the top of today's committee hearings, and play for your friends, or ask yourself first, or play for your friends, and see if you're still willing to vote for Trump. Are you still willing to see Donald Trump go out there for a second term in 2024? Because if you can see that highlight reel and see the rest of today's committee hearing, see it, watch it on C-SPAN, and if you could still vote for Trump, well, then give yourself an A. I get it. It's like that highlight reel is a test of American stupidity. And if you can still vote for Trump after seeing that, give yourself an A. And that's why this is the threat to our democracy. That decent people can look at that and actually come to the conclusion that Donald Trump is, at this point, qualified to run for a second term. He's the only announced candidate so far, right? Honest to God, is he qualified? After watching that highlight reel, after watching this final January 6th committee hearing, like I said, get it on C-SPAN, watch it. If you could watch all that and still vote for Trump, give yourself an A. It is the test of American stupidity, and by virtue of your A, if you can still vote for Donald Trump, we have failed. We have failed that American test of stupidity. We have failed ourselves. That's why I call it the threat to our democracy. If you can see that, where they talk about January 6th, and you can feel like, oh, it's really July 4th, well, then we're really in trouble. We're really in trouble. So, however, if you flunk the American stupidity test and you say, I can't vote for that man. Are you crazy? I cannot vote for Donald Trump. Well, then give yourself an F and say you have failed the American stupidity test. You are too smart. You have saved our democracy. Go out and tell your friends. Try to convince them that, hey, now's the time to quit Donald Trump. I mean, a lot of people at every point, and you know this. I have many Asian American friends who, not many, but there's some vocal ones who voted for Donald Trump and continue to be Trump supporters. And at every juncture, at every turn, that seemed like, oh, this is the point of no return. You cannot vote for this man. I said, now are you going to, can you still vote for? And they would shake their head. They're still voting for him. Now, then they would still vote for him. Another turn. Now, they would still vote for him. They would still support him. You know there are people like that out there. You got to refer them to the highlight reel on this January 6th committee, this last meeting. This was it. Like I said, it's the test of American stupidity. If you could still watch that and vote for Trump, give yourself an A, and you failed us. But if you can watch that and say, no, never again, never again for Donald, well, then give yourself an F, and you have succeeded. You have defended American democracy and not gone down the path of American stupidity. It's hard to believe, but I'm just waiting for. I have a couple of friends in particular in mind. I can see it now. Now are you ready to get off this Trump train? There are people hanging in there to the end. And that's what I can't understand. Anyway, this is our national civics lesson. That's what we can thank the January 6th committee for. They have given us a national civics lesson that is tantamount to a gift of democracy for the holidays. And it's clear they were simple. I hope they were simple enough. I hope that people understand these 4 criminal charges because they are, well, it's pretty significant. This is from the Washington Post. The leads are I always like the leads on these really massive, complicated news days. And this is a good one written in the Post. The House Select Committee investigating the January 6, 2021 attack on the Capitol voted Monday, 9-0, by the way, voted Monday to send to Justice Department prosecutors a recommendation that former President Donald Trump be charged with 4 crimes. 4 crimes. Inciting or assisting an insurrection. Come on, it's clear he did that. It's clear he did that. Obstruction of an official proceeding of Congress. Well, he tried to get the certification stopped. Tried to convince Mike Pence to, come on, Mike. You're going to be a wimp. This is what Donald Trump said. You're going to be a wimp. Conspiracy to defraud the United States. And the 4th charge, conspiracy to make a false statement. The move, and this is important, the move has no legal weight, but marks the first time the Congress has made such a referral for a former president. I mean, think of that. In the history of the United States, we've been civil enough to, if something happened, you were contrite enough or just guilty enough to say, that's it, I'm going to resign. I'm not going to put the country through this, right? I mean, that's kind of the thinking. I'm not going to put the country through this. I'm going to resign with honor. I mean, Nixon was a bad guy. And before Trump, we all thought that Nixon was the worst president ever. Well, maybe there are a few others that were worse than Nixon. But since Trump, can you say there is anyone worse than Trump? I mean, this is Trump's sort of fate. I mean, he wants to sink our country down to the lowest possible level. Because heretofore, everyone who has ever been accused of something criminal or potentially criminal has always taken the resignation route, has always said, I'm going to spare the country this moment, this negative in our history, and I'm going to pull myself out. Right? Nixon, I'm not a crook. You won't have Nixon to kick around anymore. But Donald Trump goes down kicking like a baby having a tantrum. He goes down kicking, and he's not giving up. And he's going to drag us down with him. And that's what it appears. And that's why when I say first time Congress has made a criminal referral for a former president, that's why this is historic. We have never had such an egomaniacal person, such a self-aggrandizing megalomaniac insist that he is not only above the law, but that he was more important than the law and the country. Do you know that is for all the years of the United States, with all the possible egos who have been president, the top dog, the commander in chief, never has there been someone so low as Donald J. Trump to say, you know what? If I'm going down, we're all going down. And that's what he's doing. And of course, there are Republicans who still insist that Donald Trump is the guy, that Donald Trump is the leader of the Republican Party. He can do no wrong. They will follow him. That's why this last January 6th committee hearing, it was a test of our American stupidity. And if you can see it, and if you can vote for Trump, give yourself an A, that is the threat to our democracy. But if you can see this hearing and say, come to your senses and say, the smelling salts have arrived, give yourself an F, and you have protected our democracy. You have failed the stupidity test that many Republicans, many Americans refuse. They refuse to see the truth. And so I hope you got an F on the national stupidity test, the American stupidity test, because frankly, I think it was what a thing to see the committee. They started with that highlight reel, and one by one, every committee member, the Republicans who are leaving the Congress, Kinzinger, Cheney, one by one. There was Pete Aguilar, who's going to be a new Democratic leader, one of the vice chairs, or he's high up there now in leadership. Stephanie Murphy, Asian American from Florida, she's leaving. Like, this is kind of a last act for her. And then to see Jamie Raskin then lay out the charges. Like I said, it was something. I would just watch Jamie Raskin when it's his turn to talk. If we have to go fast forward on the hearings, and just hear him talk about the charges, laying out the charges from the U.S. Code, right? Inciting or assisting an insurrection, obstruction of an official proceeding of Congress, conspiracy to defend or to defraud, the United States, not defend, defraud the United States, and conspiracy to make a false statement. Those four charges. It's history. And it's hard to imagine that even the Trumpiest Trumpster could not wake up and smell the stench that is Donald Trump, the leader of the Republican Party. The committee is also referring 4 Republican House members. Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy from California. People in his district aren't happy with him. People in his district aren't happy because he's abandoned the locals and gone all national. And what's he doing for the locals? I mean, they're scratching their heads. He didn't even vote on same-sex marriage in California, right? This is a big deal, even if you're in the red part of the blue state. But he didn't vote on it. And people think, is he representing us? Or is he looking out for his own self? So the 4 Republicans being referred: Kevin McCarthy, Representatives Jim Jordan, Ohio, the wrestler guy; Scott Perry, Pennsylvania; Andy Biggs, Arizona, which is funny because Biggs is challenging McCarthy, or did challenge McCarthy for the speakership. They're being referred to the Ethics Committee for ignoring the panel's subpoenas, which is funny because, look, if you want subpoenas to mean something, you got to honor them. But everyone knows that you can ignore them because what's the worst that can happen? I mean, usually it's not a criminal matter for ignoring the panel's subpoenas, but this speaks poorly of people like McCarthy, who wants to be the Speaker of the House, when he doesn't even have the respect to honor the House's own rules. So those 4 are being singled out. The committee also released the first part of its final report. Haven't seen that yet. I'm going to have to go through that. Panel members have agreed to make all evidence and transcripts of depositions publicly available. Most non-sensitive materials would be released by the end of the year. So if you're one of those, I'd like to see it on video, but I like to read it for myself. Who says that, right? There are some people, though. The transcripts are all there, all the evidence they saw. Some other points. Representative Liz Cheney, the panel's vice chairwoman, accused Trump of an utter moral failure and clear dereliction of duty, and said he is unfit for any office. And that is kind of the key thing here, because if this succeeds, then Donald Trump can't really run for anything. And then Representative Zoe Lofgren of California. Now I've known of Zoe Lofgren for years. She's represented that area near San Jose, and Zoe Lofgren, boy, she has come on strong these last few years, from the impeachment on through the January 6th committee. She said that Trump used prolific fundraising based on his false claims of voter fraud in concerning ways. Some of the money was used to provide or offer employment to witnesses. So I guess that would be a kind of witness tampering. Those were other charges that this committee wanted to look into, but now it's going to be up to the Justice Department, and they've got their special prosecutor. So can you imagine what this is going to be like if we have, in just a few months, an indicted former president who, do you think this is going to stop him from running for president? I don't know. But what will it say about our democracy if we allow or consider, if large numbers of Americans would consider voting for an indicted Donald Trump? I don't know. I think you're going to have to check your moral compass there, America. Anyway, that's the news of the day. It's all up to the Justice Department now. And, this is going to be a bad week for Trump. It starts off on Monday, right? And then a House committee is going to decide what parts of Donald Trump's taxes they're going to release. That's coming up later this week. And then it's a Merry Christmas, Donald Trump. What a week. You wish your Christmas was as potentially as wonderful as Donald Trump. I mean, I don't know. I just think the wheels of justice go slow. And already Eastman, right, who was also referred, one of those referred. I mean, he's the only one named. Donald Trump's lawyer, right? He called it, he called these guys fake prosecutors. So there are people standing up and saying, oh, this is, what Donald Trump would say, fake news. I haven't seen anything that the president has said, but Eastman has come out and called it fake news. Like I said, that's to be expected. So this is the Christmas we've gotten. I guess it's sort of good news if you want good news for our democracy, that the wheels of justice are turning. The cases have been referred. The criminal prosecution has been referred by the January 6th committee to the Justice Department, and now it's in their court, and they're going at it. And then, of course, let's not forget the Mar-a-Lago case with the documents. Let's not forget the Fulton County case. So you got all sorts of balls in the air, all sorts of Christmas ornaments up there that Donald Trump legally has to be juggling. It's kind of, well, he brought it on himself, right? He brought it on himself. And I hope one day this ends, right? I mean, because I have to admit that when this day started, I thought, oh, the January 6th committee, their last hearing. I almost thought, okay, I'm not going to, I did watch, but I almost didn't. I thought, oh, they'll just get the highlights. But I did watch. I'm glad I did. I suggest you do, because if our country and our democracy is to be preserved, we got to know these things. We got to know what's going on here. And we have to know that there are forces out there that are willing, that are really trying to right the ship here and make our democracy as strong as possible. No matter what may be happening, Supreme Court, Donald Trump is doing, the January 6th rioters, the insurrection, our country, our democracy is really, if everyone is being honest, it can self-correct. And we can continue on for another 200 plus years, this great experiment. It really can. So that's a positive. That's a positive. Don't let anyone say this was fake news. It's not fake news. This is real news. It was a real thing. It was, I'm crossing my fingers and hoping, yes, the Department of Justice, they can handle this. They can handle this. All right. For Asian Americans, this is an important news day. I mean, there was an Asian American on the committee, Stephanie Murphy. She's leaving. It's hard to serve, but I'm glad she was there. I'm glad she pointed out, she was able to say some part of the narrative that points out to the 4 criminal referrals that the committee sent to the Justice Department. But the big Asian American story today is this Purdue Northwest. It's a part of Purdue University. I guess it's up in Hammond, Indiana, near Chicago. Thomas Kean, last week at a December commencement, was sort of at the helm, introducing the speakers and the ceremony. The guest speaker came up and talks about free speech, said something in some kind of gibberish language. And it wasn't clear what it was. I heard the speech. I saw the ceremony. It's on YouTube. And it was funny. I liked the guy from WJOB. Has a good story, talked about free speech, talked about Mario Savio. Now, he said he went to Berkeley and met Mario Savio. If you could quote Mario Savio, who was the head of the free speech movement in the 60s, well, you're my kind of guy. I like that. I like the speaker who went up before this Thomas Kean guy, the chancellor. And then when the speaker sat down, Thomas Kean, I guess, was so invigorated by the free speech talk that he decided to mimic the gibberish that the speaker had used. Only Thomas Kean didn't use gibberish. He used what sounded like Chinese. It was the Ching Chong mock Chinese accent that is the stuff of bad comedians and bad morning DJs. This is the head of, or the chancellor of the Purdue Northwest campus, Thomas Kean, doing the Ching Chong talk and thinking that he was funny. And he got a little laughter from the crowd, a little laughter, not like a big guffaw. He got some laughter, and then people behind him were laughing, mostly white people behind him in their ceremonial caps and gowns, and they were the administrators. And then he brought in a top member of the faculty organization, and she didn't appear stunned at all. In fact, she was very calmly went to the stage. There was no outburst, because I don't know what the diversity is like within the student body population of those who were commencing last week, the winter commencement exercises of Purdue Northwest, they call it, in Hammond, Indiana. I guess that's a suburb of Chicago. But it was just incredible that when Thomas Kean started doing his Ching Chongy accent, there was laughter, modest, but no outburst, no shut up, you pig, no how dare you, no nothing. There was essentially nothing but complicity. And that's the sad thing. Look, here's the thing. If you're a comedian and your intent is to tell jokes, I might kind of veer toward, okay, I'll give you a pass if you're trying to tell jokes and be funny. Although you have choices and there are other things to make fun of. So unless you really have to make a racist slur with an accent or use a an accent, which is essentially a racist slur, then I might beg to differ with your artistic choice. But you know what? First Amendment, I might say you might have some grounds because you're a jokester, you're an artist, that kind of expression that's allowed. You are a chancellor of a major regional university, Purdue Northwest. You could be charming and witty, but being racist doesn't make you charming or witty. You're not a jokester. There's no excuse for that kind of talk. There's no excuse for saying that. Oh, you were just joking? No, you can't be just joking because you're not a comedian. You are the leader of a major regional university, setting an example. And the example you don't want to set is that of being chief racist of Purdue Northwest. So that's the situation we have at Purdue. And they had the faculty senate. They called for the university chancellor to resign last week on Friday, the 17th. The executive committee of the faculty senate, the Purdue Northwest chapter of the American Association of University Professors, released statements. They called Chancellor Thomas Keon. They called him out for inexcusable behavior that caused national and international outrage, except when it's happening. Except when it was happening. People laughed. You didn't see people come out and say, boo, or hiss, or you just didn't see that. And meanwhile, remember the commencement speaker I was talking about, Jim Dedalo was his name. He talked about being a former trader, and now he runs WJOB, which is a TV network, small regional network in that area. And he was talking about the First Amendment. I guess Keon was trying to say, yeah, this is my First Amendment. Yeah, I guess that's what he's saying. He said, this is my Asian version of the made-up language that Dedalo was using. So Keon did issue an apology saying he made a mistake that did not represent, quote, my personal or our institutional values, but it's kind of too late. I don't know how old Keon is, and I don't want to sound like an ageist, but this is the kind of thing where a university has to take a stand. I mean, you got the Board of Trustees issuing a statement saying they were aware of the comments and has accepted his apologies, but the Board of Trustees, an acceptance of apology isn't enough. The faculty is saying it's not enough. The chair of the faculty senate of the Purdue University Northeast is saying it's not enough. This is from Thomas Roach, the chair. The fact that the Board of Trustees accepted the apology is almost as bad as what he said in the first place. The Asian community has been saying for years that they are being discriminated against. And they've also been saying everybody tolerates discrimination against Asian Americans. Here we have the discriminatory remark and the Board of Trustees saying no big deal. That's from Thomas Roach, who is the chair of the faculty senate of Purdue University Northeast. They want Keon out. And Roach is saying last year we wanted him to resign because of poor leadership. This year it's because he's embarrassed the institution and offended members of our faculty and student body. And frankly, I'd have to say, I've never heard of Purdue Northwest. I always thought Purdue was all like one thing. I didn't know there was like a Purdue, the Boilermakers, and then there was a Purdue Northwest. I didn't know that. Now I know more about Purdue than I care. But the thing that sticks out in my mind is that Purdue is led by a racist. So Thomas Roach, who's the chair of the Senate, the faculty senate of Purdue, He says Keon's resignation is a foregone conclusion. And he doesn't understand why the board of trustees hasn't removed him from his position. He says, I think the outcome here is inevitable. He can't stay in place anymore. We need to resolve this as soon as possible. And I don't understand why this isn't apparent to the board of trustees and Mitch Daniels. Mitch Daniels, I believe, is the president. Is he the president of Purdue? So I think Mitch Daniels is the former governor. Also Friday, the Purdue Northwest chapter of the American Association of University Professors, the AAUP, released a statement saying the time has come for Chancellor Keon to resign. So this is for real. And so far, Keon has hung in there, although it's been reported, certainly throughout the region, in Indianapolis, Chicago area. I saw it on CNN. I saw it on, it's on YouTube. But if you know someone in Indiana, you should let them know that this Thomas Keon, the chancellor of Purdue Northwest, has got to go. And look, I don't mean to sound like we're not the police. We're not the censorship police. We're not the First Amendment police. Or we're not trying to cancel someone. But it's one thing for a comedian to do something, because basically comedians are powerless. Basically, comedians are the court jester, right? The court jester says it so the king doesn't have to say it. But actually, the court jester says it to mock the king, right? But if the king is already mocking Asians, that's not right. You know, the king is the king, right? The administrators, they're in control. They have greater responsibilities. They cannot be out there levying these racial slurs about Asians. So Thomas Kean has to go. And this is now, the call for his resignation came Friday. This is now Monday. We'll see if he's gone by tomorrow. We'll see if he hasn't slipped a letter. We'll see how much he's resisted. Because this is a new form of, this is as bad as election denial, right? I mean, to say, I'm sorry, he's not gaslighting us. He's not saying it didn't happen, but he is saying it's not important. It is important. Okay, so it happened and it is important. How can you stay? How can you stay in that position? You have to go. You have to leave right now. We'll see if something comes up in the news that a letter has been slipped into the president of Purdue University, but the chancellor of Purdue Northwest, Thomas Kean. Google him. Google the or go to YouTube and you'll see the speech. I mean, I have it here. I can play it, but if you know it's not a joke and you know it's not funny, it's just ugly. And everyone, and this is the power of that racist kind of remark. We know how bad it sounds. We know what it sounds like. You don't have to hear it to know how absolutely insulting and hateful it is. We've heard it all our lives. All our lives. And as I said, I think it is probably more hurtful that when he said it, the moment he said it, there was no double take. There was no people whipping their heads around and say, what the did he say? The guy said it. It was ridiculous. Thomas Kean, Purdue administrator, Purdue Northwest administrator, Hammond, Indiana. Time to go. All right, we end with, all right, I was up Sunday morning early watching the World Cup. Oh, man. My first soccer team, when I was in fourth grade, I was 9 years old. I was a goalie. I used to be goalie. I know why they made me goalie. I didn't say I want to be goalie, but maybe it's because I was, more athletic and I could jump around. The one thing I remember from ninth grade is I remember when the other team was on a breakaway and they're headed for the goal. And there was nothing for me to do except go out there and charge the ball. And then they say, when you're a goalie, be big, spread your arms. And the guy kicked it. And my 9-year-old hand, got a little bit of the ball and it missed the goal by about 3 feet. It preserved the lead we had in the game and we won the game. So little things like that, I was thinking about as I'm watching this World Cup final, which is maybe the greatest World Cup final ever. And I thought about the goalie because look at how the game ended. There were so many great goalie saves, not just in the penalty kick phase, but also during the game. And those saves were made by a guy named Emiliano Martinez, who did something pretty disgraceful when he got his trophy at the end for the Golden Glove or whatever they called it for being the best goalkeeper of the tournament. He made a kind of obscene gesture. What can I say? Not all Emilianos are virtuous, but I noticed that people called him Emmy, E-M-I, not E-M-I-L. See, Emiliano, see, I'm an Emiliano. We go E-M-I-L, Emil, but most people, apparently, people with him, he stopped at E-M-I, so he's Emmy. I thought, Emmy, well, I could be an award or I can be a Auntie M, I guess. Isn't that Wizard of Oz? Auntie M? Anyway, so I was watching that game. All my soccer memories come out. I mean, so there were no dead spots in the game, but even if there were, soccer memories of, I did remember doing that. Like, they backheel the ball or, I remember I did that. Oh, the ball goes deep or offsides, any offsides plays. Oh, yeah, certainly that's offsides. No, it's great. I loved the game, the best game. And I was conflicted because I'm France, because I was there for a couple months in the summer between high school and college. And that was enough for me to think, hey, I'm a Francophile for life. I sort of am, but yesterday, I have to admit, I was kind of Argentinian because I felt like, well, Emiliano, right? Martinez, and then Messi. Messi just great. Messi is great. So I was feeling really good during the game, and then after the game, not so good. I mean, it's like there's a high, right? Because the whole thing about the World Cup is a guilty pleasure. You love the World Cup because it's this game. It brings us together, but does it really? It brings us together, but it brings out all these nationalistic vibes, right? And really, it's a guilty pleasure because we know why Qatar wanted the games. We know that Qatar wanted to sort of soccer wash all their sins with the World Cup. I mean, that's kind of disgusting. And then when they put the ceremonial coat on Messi at the end, it was like, all right, come on. I mean, you guys from Argentina. I know we want to promote a kind of togetherness, but you see the Qatari leaders do that, put the coat on Messi, and that's why this was a worthwhile expenditure for them, because Qatar, they aren't angels over there in Qatar. And these stadiums built on the labor, this cheap labor, and just being Filipino American like myself, and knowing that Qatar is like one of those places where Filipinos aren't, they're just domestics. They're the help. And seen as non-equals, seen as maybe only slightly. I'm sure there are camels who have higher status than Filipinos. It's ridiculous. And so the World Cup was a kind of guilty pleasure. And the further away from the games, the joy vanishes. So we're less than 24 hours, we're about 24 hours. The joy is beginning to vanish because the reality of what the World Cup was sinks in. And so instead of being this great bit of, joy, of like really possibly the greatest World Cup final ever, it just diminishes and becomes what it is. It's a guilty pleasure. It's a glorification of worldwide colonialism. I mean, you have to be so narrowly focused on the soccer to not be truly disgusted by what the World Cup represents. When the nationalities get together and the world gets together, and Morocco playing France, it's not as bad as English playing the England playing the U.S. Colony of England. Because we've already surpassed that, but you see Morocco playing the English, or English playing anybody. We've already reviewed British colonial excesses when the Queen died. When talk about the excesses of British rule in everywhere, Asia, Africa, everywhere. It's just when that reality sinks in, the narrow focus of the World Cup that makes you feel good just goes away, and you say, well, it was nice while it lasted, right? And that's why the capitalist sports, right? When you have these major teams, and mostly England, and there are, like the Premier League or the Bundesliga in Germany, or all the leagues are in the Serie A in Italy, and the league in Spain, when they have all this money to lure international players. That's just sheer capitalism. It's more honest, and you see the game, and there's money involved to get the best players, and that seems to be more honest. And then they play these tournaments like all the different the Champions League and all that. But the World Cup tries to maintain this idea that this is the world game, and it's hard to separate from the reality of global politics before and after. And that's why, and especially to see what Qatar had to do to get the games, to build the stadiums, what it does to its people, and the people come there to work. It's just guilty pleasure, the joy, whatever joy, vanishing with every second that we separate between now and the final penalty kick. Fading memory. Fading memory. All right, that's it for our show today. I mean, there turned out to be a lot of stuff to talk about. And Christmas is coming. This is the 18th, the 19th. This is the 19th. My God, the 19th. Yeah, I don't know. Christmas just sort of crept up on me. And not that I really do anything for Christmas. I mean, mostly my wife does everything. But we actually put up some lights. We put up some lights this year. I mean, we always do, but this year we put up some different lights. So it's starting to feel Christmassy. We'll continue to do some of these shows throughout. And then I think we're going to take a break as I prepare. Maybe we'll do shorter shows or something. Because 2 p.m. Pacific live. We're here. So check us out. This is show episode 451. 451. Maybe we'll stop at 500. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. But this is the live stream. Live stream we go out. And we'll have to revive Emil and Amok's Takeout too. But anyway, you can hear us on or see this show live 2 p.m. Pacific on Twitter at Emil and Amok. Oh my God, we're gonna have to decide on Twitter too. I don't know. I mean, I just am there for people who are there, but I don't really use it as much anymore. I used to. But everything, things age in social media and aren't cool anymore. Like Facebook, right? This is on Facebook.com, FB.com, Facebook.com/EmilGuillermo.media, or on my page, Emil Guillermo. EmilGuillermo.media, that's where you can get it. But now TikTok, right? TikTok's under fire. So I don't know what's going to happen. But you can continue to get it there. You get it on YouTube at Emil Amok 1 on YouTube. And, I do replays at Emil Amok. Or no, at www.amok.com. Okay? amok.com. Once again, we're going to start and end every show with saying, hey, February 16th through March 3rd, Emil Amok, lost NPR host found under St. Mark's. Check it out. True crime comedy, I call it. February 16th. It's going to be various times between February 16th and March 3rd. New York City Frigid Fringe. Check them out. So I'll talk more about it as I, get closer, as we get closer to the time frame of the show. But like I said, if you're not going to be in New York City February 16th through March 3rd, then definitely you can check out the live stream. It's going to be streamed live. Yeah. All right, regular listeners to our show know that we like to close with a little meditation. And sometimes, not sometimes, but all the time, I end up with metta, M-E-T-T-A. I end up with the loving kindness meditation, because that seems to me to be the most the most effective in addressing all aspects of your life. The broadest possible aspects. Oh, I don't feel so good. Well, how's your self-love? What's your self-love IQ? Do you love yourself enough? Oh, no, I feel shame. Oh, well, you feel shame. You're worthy to be loved. In fact, you ought to, it's like every time you're in a situation, you just have to tell that to yourself. That should be your mantra. I'm worthy to be loved. I'm worthy to be loved. And you'll find that, in fact, you say it enough times, you will be worthy to be loved. And if you show it first toward others, then you'll find that it comes back, and then you are, in fact, worthy to be loved. So that's why the loving kindness meditation always rings true. And that's the way we end the show. And so, as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. Emil Guillermo here. 2 p.m. tomorrow, live Eastern time. Till then. Or live Pacific, 2 p.m. Pacific. 2 p.m. Pacific.